Hey everyone, it's Prep for Life. Today we are going to talk about the Goal Zero Lighthouse 400. In terms of emergency preparedness, why this might be a good addition. However, we're also going to talk about the pros and cons and give you my honest review because this lantern does run about $80. So the Lighthouse 400, first and foremost, comes with some pretty cool options. You're actually looking at two 3-watt LED bulbs. And what I like about that is that you can actually decide whether to run this one-sided or two-sided. If you're saving power or if you want a directional beam, that's available. Or if you just need a strong all-around lantern, that works really, really well. Max 400 lumens, not just charging from the built-in USB, but also from a hand crank, which allows you to run this thing basically, continuously, even without power in an extended grid-down situation. There is a built-in flashing beacon as well in case there's maybe roadside emergency or if you need signaling. Your output on the USB, this actually can be used as well to charge other devices. So you've got a 5-volt up to 1.5 amp. Your overall weight is just over 1 pound. Your dimensions, you can see it here in my hand. It's not huge, but it's also not tiny, right? So it definitely has some, you're not packing this, I think, on a backpacking adventure. Overall, your battery capacity, you're looking at 4,400 milliamps. Not a huge amount there, but certainly nothing to sneeze at. If you look at some of their estimates here, you're basically going to be able to charge a point of view camera for 3 times, maybe 2 times on a phone, and a 50% boost on a 7-inch tablet. Again, those are complete estimates, depending on the hardware that you have, but also that's really, if you're not running the light at all, you're just charging off of that. So think, if you're car camping and you're running this for the better part of an evening, you could probably run half the light for a little while and charge your phone and be just fine. But you're not going to be running that on an extended period of time unless you have a way to plug that into a bigger power source, or if you're just going to crank it for a little ways. In terms of cranking, they're estimating about a minute of crank time is going to give you 10 minutes of light, but that's on the lowest setting, so keep that in mind, guys. But that is a cool feature. They're estimating about 7 hours full charge, from empty on a 7-watt solar panel, which I found interesting was that the USB port, the estimate is about the same, 7 hours. Right here, they're giving you an estimate in terms of runtime for the LED bulbs. So if you're only running one bulb, you're between 48 hours on low and 6 hours on high, whereas if you're running both sides, you could get up to 24 hours if you're just doing that and not charging anything else, for 24 hours on low and up to 2.5 hours on high. That's full 400 lumens doing that. We're going to go ahead and take this out and start testing it. I'm going to run this all the way out. We're going to test the crank and see how that works, and just give you my overall opinion. I think it's a blessing and a curse to have a built-in USB charger. For one, you're not losing it. It's always attached. It's always there. However, my big caveat anytime a company does this is, okay, well, what if something happens to this? It gets damaged, it gets yanked off, something happens, and then all of a sudden I do not have a method for charging this aside from cranking it. Turn this way to go half light or directional, turn this way to go full light. Just plug something in. You don't have to do anything special to actually be able to run the USB charger. And then, of course, you've got a battery indicator. You've got your emergency lighting right there. And that's really all there is to it. One thing I'll point out is the way that they've put their reflectors together. You've got the LED lights at the top. There's 2 of them. One on that side, one on that side. And they reflect downward onto the inner reflector. You've got a diffuser all the way around that really softens the light, makes it really usable, not harsh light just shining in your eyes. And then you've got reflectors up and down, so on the bottom and on the top. It may sound really, really simple, but it actually gives you a very, very usable amount of light, and it's a softened light because of the diffuser. I have to say, I really like the way that this performs in terms of the way that it lights up the room. I think it makes it a lot more pleasant, a lot more usable. In terms of the overall build quality, guys, these are plastic components, but that's not different from anybody else out there. In terms of the crank, you can just pull that right out and start cranking. And as soon as I do, you'll see that battery, the charge indicator comes on directly. I'm going to try charging that or cranking it for a minute and seeing if we can get our 10 minutes of light out of there. All right, now I just set my timer for a minute. So let's start cranking. And that's my timer. Okay, so that should be our 10 minutes of light. Here's the 1/2 light, so I'm going to turn it there, kind of down toward the bottom, right there. And we're going to set that as a stopwatch. We're coming up on about 6 minutes here. Hasn't really been a change in the way that this has been working, so we'll keep at it. Alright, so we just rounded out 30 minutes with this thing going, and as you can see, I mean, it's still, with the one light going strong, so clearly the 10-minute estimate is not meant for one bulb. I'm going to go ahead and set this to both, just like that, and we'll see how much farther we can go. Okay, so it went on for about another 9 minutes after that. Now it's possible that I cranked this thing pretty hard with these Sasquatch hands, right? But that's pretty impressive. I mean, the fact that it would go over 30 minutes on just a half, I mean, I put it on the absolute lowest setting I could put it on, and according to the documentation, it could feasibly go 48 hours on a full charge just at that setting. So that's pretty impressive, but all in all, I'd say it definitely passed the crank test. So is this light worth the $80? Having taken it out and used it, having seen what it can do and how it lights up, I mean, you've got a phone charger, an emergency light, you've got a couple of modes in terms of how the light's usable, a lot of adjustability, several different ways to charge this thing, including a crankshaft. That's a lot to consider. $80 is still a lot of money, but for what this could do in terms of emergency preparedness, I definitely think it's a very cool piece of tech. I hope you found this video useful. If I've earned it, please give a thumbs up, share with your friends, and definitely subscribe down at the bottom to be alerted for further videos we put out. Thanks for watching.